If you work with services, operations, outsourcing, vendors, technology providers, or professional service companies, you've probably encountered one major challenge: finding useful information when you actually need it. Maybe you're trying to understand a service management concept. Maybe you're researching outsourcing. Perhaps you need to learn about service providers, operational risks, performance management, technology services, or emerging service models. Or maybe you've heard a term in a meeting and thought, I know the words, but what does that actually mean? That's exactly where Servicingpedia comes in. Servicingpedia is a specialist knowledge platform designed to help professionals, businesses, students, entrepreneurs, and curious learners explore the rapidly evolving world of services. Think of it as a growing knowledge library focused on the service economy. Instead of endlessly jumping between search results, articles, definitions, and websites, Servicingpedia gives you a dedicated environment for discovering service-related knowledge. And today, we're focusing on one of the simplest but potentially most useful ways to use the platform: browsing service management topics. How do you find a subject? How do you move from one topic to another? How can browsing help you discover subjects you didn't even know you should be researching? And how can you turn casual browsing into structured learning? That's what we're exploring today. So open Servicingpedia, get comfortable, and let's start exploring. Before we start browsing topics, let's understand the bigger idea behind Servicingpedia. At its core, Servicingpedia is about knowledge discovery. The service economy is enormous. Businesses increasingly depend on specialists and service providers for everything from technology and accounting to cybersecurity, consulting, marketing, logistics, and customer support. And new service categories continue to emerge. Artificial intelligence creates new consulting services. Cyber threats create new security services. Remote working creates new collaboration and workforce services. Regulatory changes create new compliance services. Digital transformation creates entirely new technology ecosystems. Servicingpedia provides a place where users can explore this constantly evolving landscape. You might visit because you're researching a specific service, but you might discover something else entirely. Imagine you're researching IT outsourcing. While exploring the subject, you encounter related concepts such as managed services, then service-level agreements, then vendor management, then performance monitoring, then operational resilience. Suddenly, what started as one search has become a much broader learning journey. That's one of the biggest differences between searching and browsing. Searching asks, "Can I find this?" Browsing asks, "What else should I know?" And that second question can be incredibly powerful. Let's imagine you're responsible for managing an external service provider. Perhaps your company has outsourced part of its technology operations. You want to improve how that relationship is managed. So what do you search for? Managing outsourced companies? Vendor management? Supplier oversight? Service governance? Third-party management? Outsourcing best practices? All of those searches could lead somewhere useful, but they illustrate a bigger problem. You don't always know the correct terminology before you begin researching. And if you don't know the terminology, traditional search can become surprisingly inefficient. You search one phrase, open 5 tabs, read 3 articles, discover another term, search again, open another 6 tabs, save 2 links, forget where the first article came from. 20 minutes later, you've created a miniature research project. Topic browsing provides a different approach. Instead of requiring you to know exactly what you're looking for, a structured knowledge environment allows you to explore a subject area. You might begin with something broad, for example, service management. From there, you can identify narrower concepts. You may discover service delivery, vendor management, outsourcing, performance management, service-level agreements, risk management, customer experience, service operations, technology services, professional services. Each concept can lead to another. That's important because real-world service management rarely exists in isolated boxes. Vendor performance can affect risk. Risk can affect governance. Governance can affect contracts. Contracts can affect service levels. Service levels can affect customer experience. Everything connects. Servicingpedia's value is therefore not simply about finding definitions. It's about helping users understand the landscape surrounding a subject. Now let's actually browse Servicingpedia. Rather than treating this as a normal website tour, we're going to follow a simple research objective. Imagine we want to learn more about service provider performance. Step 1. Start from Servicingpedia. Begin from the Servicingpedia website. Take a moment to understand the main navigation and the different ways information is presented. Don't immediately rush into searching. Look at the available knowledge areas, topics, and content. Your first objective is orientation. Ask, what subjects can I explore from here? Step 2. Choose your starting subject. Let's say our broader interest is service management. We begin exploring the relevant topic area. At this stage, don't worry about finding the perfect article. You're trying to understand the territory. Look for concepts connected with your original question. You might encounter subjects associated with service providers, service delivery, performance, outsourcing, vendor relationships, service quality. Any one of these could become the next stage of your journey. Step 3. Open a relevant topic. Suppose we find content relating to service provider performance. Open it. Now slow down. Don't simply skim the first paragraph and leave. Look at the terminology being used. Ask yourself, what concepts are appearing repeatedly? Perhaps you encounter terms such as KPIs, SLAs, performance measurement, service quality, response times, availability, escalation. Those terms are valuable because each one potentially gives you another research direction. Step 4. Expand the research. Let's take service level agreements. You might originally have thought your problem was simply, how do I measure my provider? But now your research is becoming more precise. Perhaps performance shouldn't simply be judged by whether you feel the provider is doing a good job. Maybe performance should be linked to measurable service commitments. Now another question appears. What should an SLA measure? And another, how are service levels monitored? And another, what happens when performance falls below expectations? This is how browsing creates deeper understanding. Step 5. Follow the connection. Imagine SLA research introduces the concept of key performance indicators. That opens another branch. You might explore response times, resolution times, availability, customer satisfaction, incident volumes, error rates, service quality, delivery timelines. Our original subject, provider performance, is becoming a structured collection of related concepts. Step 6. Go one level deeper. Now ask, who actually reviews those KPIs? That could lead toward vendor management, service governance, oversight, reporting, escalation procedures. Suddenly, we're no longer just learning what provider performance means. We're beginning to understand how a real service management framework might operate. That's the key browsing technique. Start broad. Identify concepts. Follow connections. Go deeper. Don't think of Servicingpedia as somewhere you visit, read one page, and immediately leave. Think of it as a place where one subject can become the gateway to another. Once you understand the basic process, you can start using Servicingpedia much more strategically. Here's the trick. Don't browse randomly. Browse with questions. Let's say your starting subject is managed services. Instead of simply asking, what are managed services? Create a chain of questions. Question 1, what are managed services? Question 2, why do companies use managed service providers? Question 3, what risks are involved? Question 4, how should providers be selected? Question 5, how should performance be measured? Question 6, what happens when a provider underperforms? Now your browsing session has an objective. You aren't simply consuming information, you're building understanding. Another powerful technique is cross-topic browsing. Take cybersecurity. Cybersecurity might initially appear to be purely a technology subject, but explore deeper and you'll find connections with risk management, managed services, third-party providers, cloud services, incident response, compliance, business continuity, operational resilience. The same happens with artificial intelligence. Start with AI consulting. You could quickly move toward automation services, data services, software development, cybersecurity, cloud infrastructure, professional consulting, outsourcing. The service economy is interconnected. And that's why browsing across categories can be so valuable. Instead of thinking, I need one answer, start thinking, I need to understand the system around the answer. That shift can dramatically improve the quality of your research. Let's put everything together. Meet Sarah. Sarah works for a growing company. Her company currently uses several external service providers. One handles IT support, another manages cloud infrastructure, another provides cybersecurity support, and another supports digital marketing. Sarah has recently been asked to help improve how these providers are monitored. There's one problem. She isn't a service management specialist. Her first instinct is to search how to manage service providers. But that's incredibly broad. Instead, she visits Servicingpedia. She begins with service management. While browsing, she discovers vendor management. That sounds relevant. She explores further. Then she encounters service level agreements. Now something clicks. The company already has service agreements with its providers, but Sarah realizes that signing an agreement and actively monitoring it are two very different things. She continues. SLA research leads her toward KPIs. KPIs lead toward performance monitoring. Performance monitoring leads toward reporting. Reporting leads toward governance. And governance eventually introduces third-party risk. Look at what just happened. Sarah started with one vague question. How do I manage providers? Her browsing journey transformed it into a much more sophisticated framework. Provider contract, SLA, KPI monitoring, reporting, governance, risk. She now has 8 areas she can investigate further. And perhaps more importantly, she has learned the terminology required to continue researching intelligently. That's one of the hidden benefits of browsing a specialist knowledge library. You aren't simply finding answers, you're learning what questions to ask next. If you're going to use Servicingpedia regularly, here are 5 ways to get significantly more value from your browsing. Tip 1. Start broad. Don't worry if you don't know the exact terminology. Start with the concept you understand. If your issue involves an external company providing a service, begin around providers, outsourcing, or service management. The terminology will become more specific as you explore. Tip 2. Follow unfamiliar terms. When you encounter terminology you don't understand, don't automatically skip it. That unfamiliar term could be the most valuable part of the page. Write it down, explore it, find out how it connects with your original subject. Tip 3. Build topic chains. Remember our example: provider performance, SLA, KPI, reporting, governance, risk. Create your own chains. This is particularly useful when researching complex subjects. Instead of collecting isolated definitions, you're creating a mental map. Tip 4. Look across categories. Don't assume a subject belongs in only one area. A technology service can also involve contracts, risk, cybersecurity, governance, finance, compliance, operations, people. The most useful insight may be hiding in an adjacent topic. Tip 5. Return with better questions. Your first Servicingpedia session may answer your original question, but a successful research session should also generate new questions. That's a good thing, because every new question means your understanding is becoming more sophisticated. If you're completely new to Servicingpedia, here's a simple challenge. Visit the website. Choose one service-related subject relevant to your work or interests. Spend 10 minutes exploring it. Every time you encounter an important unfamiliar concept, follow that concept. See how far your journey takes you. Then come back to your starting point. You may be surprised by how much broader your understanding has become. So what have we learned? Servicingpedia is designed to help people explore and better understand the enormous world of services and the service economy. And browsing service management topics gives you a way to move beyond isolated searches. You can start with a broad subject, discover terminology, follow related concepts, explore adjacent areas, and gradually build a much deeper understanding of how different service management topics connect. We started with service provider performance. That led us toward SLAs, then KPIs, then monitoring, reporting, governance, and eventually risk. That's the power of browsing. You don't always need to know your final destination before you begin. Sometimes the most valuable knowledge is something you didn't know you needed to search for. So if you work with service providers, outsourcing, technology, consulting, professional services, operations, or the wider service economy, spend some time exploring Servicingpedia. Visit servicingpedia.com. Choose a subject. Start exploring. Follow the connections and see where your research takes you. And if this walkthrough helped you, subscribe to the Servicingpedia YouTube channel. Every week, we'll put another service concept, feature, or area of the service economy under the spotlight. We'll explain what it means, why it matters, how it works, and how it connects with the wider world of services. And before we finish, there's one more thing worth knowing. Servicingpedia is part of the wider MP Nerds ecosystem. MP Nerds develops and operates a growing collection of specialist digital platforms, knowledge resources, and online tools covering areas including business, services, governance, learning, collections, and specialist knowledge. Each platform has its own purpose, its own audience, and its own capabilities. Here on Servicingpedia, however, the mission remains clear. Make the world of services easier to explore, understand, and discover. Now we want to hear from you. What service management topic should we explain next?